Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Nita, and I'm your host for today on Show Up to Scale Up. And today, my guest is Tony, who's and I can never pronounce his surname. So Redondo, I think his surname is. I'm so sorry, Tony. I'll invite him on in a moment, and I'm going to share you my experience of actually working with Tony. Absolutely lovely guy, and I have various meetings, and I've never had a problem, but then it was always at the back of my mind to kind of think, well, is that doubt where, charging customers in my local currency, which is sterling, does that actually prevent the transaction in the first place, or that client's journey? So when I came across Tony, he was so easy to work with, and as a result, for me, one, I get the peace of mind. Two, my customer's journey in terms of, I put it in the caption over the weekend, they haven't got the uncertainty of, or how much will it cost me once it converts into my currency and everything. So at the same time, for me, where the exchange rate isn't as favourable, I can say to Tony, hold on to those dollars, tell me when it's best for me to actually exchange, and then we'll do it. And Tony works in all areas. I mean, I know he's helped with mergers and helped companies save money in terms of staff costs and all the service charges and everything, but I'm not going to steal his thunder. I'll let Tony introduce himself. So just a little bit about me. So I'm Nita Solanki, and I'm a business coach and consultant, and my intention is to leave you with that feeling of increase, to feel inspired and empowered, and hopefully have a few laughs along the way. And my background, I'm a former business consultant with accountancy experience, and I'm passionate about building customer satisfaction, that loyalty, and having that client journey be as best as possible, so that you have automatically those customers returning and building that loyalty. So I work with CEOs to basically plan, measure, execute, and more importantly, champion and celebrate that scalability, but sustainable scalability for their business. And so what I'm going to be doing now is adding Tony onto the list, and do is I was just going to wave to hi Bubs, Aruna, and there we go, Tony. Hi, can you hear me?
Hello.
Okay?
I can now.
Good. Right, Tony, please introduce yourself to our audience. Tell me what you do, who you do it for, and why do you do it.
Okay, Nita. Well, thank you very much for your kind invite to have me on this afternoon. Very kind of you. Thank you. My name is Tony Redondo. I formed and own and run Cosmos Currency Exchange, and for my sins, I am a currency broker by trade. As you can see from the headline, I've been around for a few decades. In fact, my daughter, when she studies the history, she always wants to study the dinosaur period, so because she feels that she can ask me questions from my personal experience. So.
Oh, amazing! You would, in fact, there wasn't an interesting present you got over Father's Day.
Yes, Father's Day, my very delightful daughter got me a starter bottle. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need a family-sized package before I'm done, of oil treatment to grow my dreadlocks back. So wait until this time next year. You'll see.
Oh, well, I'll invite you again. Looking forward to that, Tony. So tell me more about yourself, Tony.
Okay, so I'm Portuguese by birth. I was born and raised in Mozambique in southern Africa. So a bit of a different childhood to most people, 200 yards away from the Indian Ocean. Water temperature 23 degrees year round.
Amazing.
Air temperature 26. Ambition growing up, I wanted to be a weatherman because it's the easiest job in the world in southern Africa, because there's only 2 seasons. 9 months of the year, it's hot and dry.
Yeah.
And 3 months of the year is hot and dry, apart from 2 hours in the afternoon when it torrential downpours. And if you've never experienced warm rain, you need to. It's the weirdest sensation. I mean, warm rain. Very strange.
I remember going to the
to Barbados for my honeymoon 28 years ago, and it was a lovely warm rain. So I have experienced that
Yeah,
actually.
yeah. It's the strangest sensation, isn't it? So yeah, I was born and raised there and had a fab life. Things changed as they tend to politically and economically. So there was a revolution back in Portugal, which in '74, which overthrew a 50-year fascist dictatorship. And the colonies were given away overnight. So we were evacuated out alongside thousands of people from Mozambique, from Angola, from Cape Verde, from São Tomé, from Goa in India, Timor, Indonesia, Macau in China, Brazil, you name it, all came flooding back. Portugal is a pretty small place. There's nearly as many people in London as there are in the whole of Portugal.
Oh, wow. Didn't know that.
So it was a bit chaotic. And so having lived for 9 years of my life in that tropical heat, my parents took a very sensible decision to turn up at Heathrow Airport in January, where it was slightly on the colder side, shall we say.
Yeah, in fact, you just reminded me of it was probably about 20 years ago when we went to Boston in America, and it was January, and us typical Brit was like, oh yeah, we're going away on a holiday, and it was -20, and I froze my butt off. So yeah, sorry, back to you.
No, absolutely, absolutely. You know, I had the same. I visited New York 9 months before 9/11, and in early December, and as you say, it was like -15 outside. But the one thing you very quickly learned is no layers in New York. You have a T-shirt and then a biggest coat you can find, because everything inside is super warm.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you go outside and it's -15 at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And it's like, whoa.
Oh, so tell us what you do, Tony. Tell us what you do, Tony.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm a currency broker. So most people know the market because of the travel kiosks at the airport, or when you need travel money, or I guess these days crypto is never far out of the news. I don't deal with any of that. I deal with the biggest segment in the market, which is to help clients move funds from one bank account to another bank account involving an exchange of currency. Now, those clients could be private individuals, there might be charities, there might be businesses, and there's almost untold number of reasons why somebody might want to pay out in a different currency, because they're a business and they're importing, so you have to pay a supplier. Or these days, it's just as common for us to see business requirements where UK businesses are employing overseas remote workers.
Yes,
Or indeed, because of the work from home trend since the lockdown, or businesses moving funds about from one office to another in different countries. But the majority of our work, Nita, is still with private clients. And that can be some, big ticket stuff like buying and selling property, to get involved with a lot of probate work, where, we've got connections with a lot of wills and trusts lawyers. So probate is given. There are 5 beneficiaries, for example, 2 in the UK, 3 abroad. And if you go for somebody like myself, the bottom line is that the beneficiary in Australia or Canada or South Africa or wherever they happen to be will get much more local currency for the same amount of sterling than you do through a traditional bank or mainstream broker.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing, isn't it? It's a case of, for any business owner, it's how can I save money, but also how can I avoid unnecessary cost,
Yes.
or have some more say in terms of all the service charges that are being exposed to
Absolutely.
me by dealing with different currencies. And also, I like the fact, with us, I don't necessarily need to have a dollar bank account in order to receive money in dollars, which I found, because obviously there's bank charges for me.
Yes.
And at this stage, it's not feasible for me to have a dollar bank account. But at the same time, I want to give that flexibility to my clients to say, I don't want you to worry about paying in a different currency and not knowing what it's going to cost you. You just do a normal bank transfer. There's no fees. I mean, so long as your bank, I know most business accounts charge per transaction, but so long as your bank doesn't charge you per transaction, then literally you're minimizing all the fees. And so for business owners, you're saving costs, which is great. You're giving control over them, over the fluctuations in terms of they choose when to exchange or to convert it back to the local currency. Do you mind sharing some of the stories where, you've actually helped customers, because I think this is where customers, the audience here can actually relate to some of the advantages and the benefits that you actually deliver to business owners.
Yeah, no problem at all. I mean, it's entirely right, really. I think, I describe myself, Cosmos, we're a currency exchange brokerage, but actually we're a payment solution provider.
I call you my payments officer, actually.
Yeah. Well, nothing so grand, please. Because the banking system is pretty fractured, and let's be brutally honest, it's designed for the benefit of the practitioners and not the clients. Yeah. And one of the things that particularly clients in the United Kingdom may not be very aware of is that in international standards, the UK banking industry is actually quite advanced. So, for instance, what catches a lot of people out is you think, right, I'm going to target the biggest economy in the world, the United States. Yeah, which is a very sensible thing to do. It is the biggest economy in the world. But did you realize that 90% of transactions are settled by checkbook?
Did not know that.
Wow. Now, what was the last time you wrote out a check or received a check?
Oh, actually last week. From British Gas, they're obviously sorting out their finances. But yeah, it was like, oh, this is a bit old-fashioned. yeah,
I know. What's this? What's this bit of paper? But yeah, so what we did is I had a very long apprenticeship. So I worked for 35 years in the corporate world. I set up Cosmos in 2020 because I saw a gap in the market. I'm under no illusions. What we do is nothing out of the ordinary. There are thousands of banks and brokers and online apps that offer currency exchange. Yeah. It's the way that we do it that's pretty different to the mainstream.
Absolutely.
I don't like using the word unique because I'm sure there are others out there.
You are unique. You are unique because you give that customer service, so every customer feels unique. And so, I think that's the key advantage is that, a lot of banks are, they're automating and they're, using artificial intelligence and all of this technology. Yet they've realized that actually customers just want a human being to talk to. They want that personal relationship, and you definitely offer that. So you are unique, Tony.
Thank you very much. Wow, my head is going to swell. I'm not going to be able to leave the room now.
You're going to be growing hair in a moment.
Exactly. Absolutely. No, it's right. And one of the things that I felt for a long time, certainly the last 10, 15 years of my career, is that the whole industry has moved away from relationship-based business models to transaction-based business models, which are totally technology-led. And the technology is very clever these days and can, used as a tool, can you save time and money, but it's pretty hard to have a conversation with an algorithm. It's pretty hard to ask those questions that you really need to ask. And it doesn't even have to be big stuff. It might be sending $250 to a cousin in Australia because they're graduating, but you want them to get the money, and I've over the years so many times clients say to me, well, the money went quickly out of my account, but it hasn't got to the other end.
Yeah.
And then trying to get hold of anybody on the telephone as well. Some of the sites don't even have telephone numbers. Sometimes you're on the phone holding for 40 minutes and being pushed from pillar to post. And I thought, well, there's got to be a better way. And the better way is that personalised service. And I guess is one of the benefits of my longevity is that I started my career back in 1985. And of course, in those days, there were no computers and there was no internet. So the only way business could be done is by talking to people and freshing, solutions out. So what Cosmos is all about in a nutshell, Nita, is a marriage between the old school relationship-based business models with the use of the useful technology. And then we've added a few bits into it, which I think are fundamental, which I've learned along the way. Local collection accounts, so that clients in the United States don't have to send their dollars abroad to a London-based account.
Yeah, which is what we do,
Yeah, because a lot of UK exporters don't realise that even if that client in the United States has an account with one of the major 5 banks who have online banking, that only works within the United States.
Yeah.
The minute you need to get dollars out of the country, to London, for example, they have to get in their stop what they're working, get in a car, drive to the bank, fill out a form, pay $50, get to the bank. So we launched in 2020, and as difficult as that launch was, because we lost a lot of business because of the lockdowns, what we lost, we kind of like picked up in different directions as well, because all of a sudden I started getting phone calls from corporate clients saying, my client in Florida says he can't pay me. My client in California says he can't pay me. And at first, I have to be honest, I would say, they may not want to pay you because of cash flow. That's a bit of a different question. Yeah. But I started looking into it and realized that's right, because they were using a normal bank or a mainstream broker. The dollar collection account was in London. So the invoice went out to the UK to the client in the States with a London-based dollar account, which means the online banking doesn't work, telephone banking doesn't exist, so you have to physically go to the bank. But with the lockdowns, the banks were shut.
Yeah.
So they literally couldn't pay you. So the solution we came up with is to open up a US dollar collection account in New York, which, to be frank, is easier said than done. Because I used to do a lot of business with United States before 2012. And then Congress passed the Patriot Act, which meant you have to be a US registered business to assist US residents.
Of course,
and there's no such thing as a federal license. So if you want to operate throughout the United States, you have to apply and pay for 50 different license fees for each of the 50 states. So that killed that business straight away. Which is exactly what the intention was, if truth be known. But what nobody had worked out is, in this new world of ours, competition is good for the client, but what's even better is collaboration. And so what me and my partners did is approach various banks, not top-tier banks, because we were too small, to be frank, and they're too big. You can't get through the switchboard, you know the story. Mid-sized banks, and we brought proposition to them that they open up a dollar collection account clients can pay into. They have no compliance costs because they have to go through our compliance to send the money into that account.
Sure.
They have no marketing costs. We'll give them the clients. The clients channel the money through them. All they have to do is make sure that the money's safe whilst it's in the United States.
Yeah.
It's governed by US banking law and protected. And secondly, the same day the funds arrive, the funds are shipped out to a dollar account in London.
Okay.
For us to convert. And then they can charge us a monthly fee. So for the bank, it was free business. And for us, gave us a payment solution so that any client in any of the 50 US states can sit at their desk, don't have to go to the bank, don't have to do SWIFT forms, don't have to pay the bank fees. Just go online, move the funds to New York, and we do the rest.
So I remember when I first met you, Tony, I was thinking, okay, does this mean more service charge in terms of, a smaller business and all of that? But obviously, it just isn't the case. Do you want to tell the audience in terms of, dealing with, a smaller business for smaller businesses? It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to mean more costs for you. Well, over to you. Yeah. No,
absolutely. Absolutely right, Nita, because we've got the best of all worlds. First of all, one of the benefits of modern technology, of course, is that I don't have to be in London. I don't have to be in Square Mile anymore. So I'm actually based down in Truro in Cornwall, which is 7 hours from London. Any further west and I'll get my feet wet in the Irish Sea. So I don't have London overheads. I don't have big city overheads. But as a licensed broker, I have access to the same wholesale money market rates that the banks do.
Brilliant.
So it's the best. I have the buying power of the banks without their overheads. And so the proposition we have for our clients is you can register with us on a no cost, no obligation basis.
Yeah.
And we have access, we can give you access to over 35 currency accounts in London. In addition to that,
not just dollars then you deal in currencies.
Over 35 currencies. So all the majors and quite a few of the prominent minor currencies, or exotic currencies as they're called. So we've then got the dollar account in the United States and New York. We've also got a Canadian account in Toronto for Canadian clients to pay into. And post-Brexit has been really useful for our clients to also for us to have a Euro account in Frankfurt. Because again, what we found in 2020 as we launched is we started getting phone calls from clients who I'd helped previously buy a property in Spain or France or what have you. Because of Brexit, they wanted to sell up.
Gotcha.
They couldn't travel out because of the travel ban. They go around that problem by giving a solicitor in Spain or France a power of attorney. So the solicitor signed on their behalf, collected the banker's draft, put it into their Spanish account. The problem now is that their clients are spending 3, 4, 5, 6 hours on the telephone to a bank in Spain or France, trying to find A, somebody who speaks English, B, somebody who's prepared to do the transfer. And the banks wised up to this very quickly and started charging percentage fees.
Ooh.
And I'm talking in España, 1.5% fees.
Yeah.
So,
So when you're talking property, I mean, obviously a percentage just means you just end up paying so much more. It's just absolutely crazy.
My first case, which I'll never forget, was a client who were coming back to the UK. They were retired, but their middle-aged daughter got cancer. So they wanted to come back to the UK. So they sold an apartment in Alicante. It was just, by the time everybody took off the estate agent fees and solicitors and taxes and what have you, I think it was about 110,000 euros. And the transfer fee was about 1,800 euros.
Wow.
And that's before the conversion. And so we thought, this is just madness. You know, there's got to be a better solution. And the solution we came up with is, we didn't want, to be frank, to be particularly involved with the Spanish banking system either, because it's a bit slow. The German banking system is very efficient, and it's still and both countries are part of the single market. So by opening up a euro account in Germany, means as long as that client now has online access to the account in Spain, once the draft that the solicitor puts in from the house sale proceeds clears, they can move the funds to Germany. And because the German banking system is efficient, on the same day the funds are in, they'll be transferred straight over to London. I can then monitor the markets for clients, because that's the other big difference between us and the other brokers, is we're not reactive. Because every client gets a discovery session, we know exactly what each client is looking at doing and the time frame they're looking at doing it in. And then we can monitor the markets. So when the exchange rate is favourable, we can pick up the telephone and say, Nita, you know, the dollar's super strong, the pound's weaker. You know, I think it's an opportunity because this, and this. X dollars now buys Y sterling, as opposed to when the funds first came in, where, you know, so you've gained however much sterling it is. So we try and be proactive.
Yeah.
We try and be sort of relationship basis, work on a relationship basis, and then the convenience of the technology and the local collection accounts.
Yeah, and what I'm seeing there, Tony, is that, you know, obviously I understand the finances and everything, but not every business owner necessarily does. And it's a case of, Tony, you deal with it. get the money. Tell me when it reaches this month in sterling, and then just transfer it across. Because if at the moment, so with our dollar account, if it's only going to give me £500 worth of sterling, I'm not interested. So once it hits the rate, just transfer it over and I'm happy. But I don't necessarily need to know the nitty gritty of it. It's just a case of, Tony, you do what you're good at, I'll do what I'm good at.
Exactly.
Deal with it.
No, that's right.
You know, and then that's the, you know, the main thing of it, which is excellent. We did actually have a question. How is this different from using bill.com?
Bills.com. I haven't come across bills.com. To be perfectly frank, don't know them off the top of my head. I am aware that there are hundreds of online apps out there. And 9 times out of 10, my experience of online apps is that they generally give you a better rate of exchange than the banks do, because they don't have bank overheads. The problem is that they've got the same business model as the banks. It's reactive. It's up to you, the client, to stop doing what you're doing and phone the bank or log onto a platform or log onto your bills.com app and ask for a quote, and then you get 10 seconds or 12 seconds or 15 seconds to agree it or not, as the case may be. So it's still reactive, that, you know, with the rates of exchange change every 3 seconds, night and day.
Wow.
So you're looking at 28,800 changes every 24 hours. So you might be in between appointments at 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Exactly.
But it doesn't mean it's the right time of the hour, never mind the day or the week. So by us doing a discovery session and knowing your time frame, you can leave that on our shoulders to try and get the timing as right as possible for you. The other thing, of course, is if something goes wrong on an online app, you are on your own.
Yeah.
You use a personalised service like myself, and you've paid a bill in Australia, and you've sent your sterling in, and your client in Australia, your supplier in Australia is saying, I haven't got the money, Nita, you don't spend any time on it, other than phoning me or sending me a rude message on WhatsApp or however you want to communicate, and say to me, Tony, the money hasn't got there, can you chase, please? And then it's on my shoulders to do the chasing and put a trace on a payment and do all the other banking things to find where the monies have got to. You don't have to get involved in any of that.
And I've just heard that the issue is getting to do it online, in chat only. And again, we just exactly what we mentioned in terms of, the major banks are trying to automate even customer service. And, if I had the option of basically dealing with a human being that's going to be doing, basically all I'm interested in is invoicing the client, receiving them, making sure that they're happy with their journey in terms of being exactly what to pay and how to do it. I receive the money, and if I've got any issues, I know that I can message you or even, send you an email or text you. All of those just makes it easy for me. And again, I focus on selling, serving, and you deal with everything else. Then I don't have to worry about, I've got to go, queue to find where my money is. I've got to find out when is the best time to, convert it. And so it almost becomes a no-brainer when, one, as you said, the way you've done all your connections and everything is you're not just a one-man band. You've actually, supported by a group of partners where your overheads are, cut to a minimum. And so you're able to provide a low-cost option with, human connection, but also personalized connection. It's, I was like, when can we start? As soon as the money starts coming in terms of different currencies, it's like, Tony, let's get started. And excellent. And so, Tony, in terms of, I can see why you do it, because it is that case of giving that personalized customer service. And when, just like me, when you're passionate about customer service and you see people are getting frustrated with, being, queuing or not talking to your human being, it just gets so annoying and frustrated. And when you feel that you could actually give what people want, I can see why, it just shows how passionate that you are about customer service. Tony, was there anything else that you'd like to share our audience, or would you like to leave our audience with today?
Well, I think from a business point of view, having worked for 35 years in a corporate world before setting up on my own, one of the things you think you know, but you don't actually know until you actually go out on your own, is you might have a certain skill set and you put that into practice in launching your own business, but actually 99% of your day is dealing with everything else.
Exactly, yeah.
And if I can help clients by taking 1% of that away, but a rather important 1% because it's the bottom line 1%, then that helps.
Yeah.
The other thing that I always try and mention is that, the UK, and perhaps this is because even though I've lived the vast majority of my life in this country, I wasn't born here, the UK has so many advantages to be a global Britain, to export because of the empire, because of the Commonwealth, because English is the natural language of business, because we're halfway between the US and the Far East time zone wise. So I can start my day by speaking to people in Australia, in New Zealand, and it's not the middle of the night, it's 7, 8 o'clock in the morning for me.
Yeah.
And go around until sort of 5 o'clock in the afternoon when it's 9 o'clock in the morning in Vancouver or San Francisco. So there are so many advantages to having a business in the UK, and the old adage of not having all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
If you are limited to the national market, you could be the greatest in your sector. But if the UK economy is suffering through no fault of your own, you could suffer too. So why put all your eggs in one basket? Why not spread the net? There are lots of reasons why people don't, because it's extra work, they don't know the local market so well. But a lot of it comes down to the mechanics of, oh God, now that means opening up 35 bank accounts. How much is that going to cost? And
which is what I thought I had to do.
And all this extra work. And if you can find a solution that means you can get a benefit of not having all your eggs in one business basket without the additional costs and adding more to your to-do list, then it's a win-win for everybody.
Excellent. Yeah, and ultimately it is, for every business owner to, yes, you started your business and you're fulfilling your passion or doing what you love. That doesn't necessarily qualify in on how to run a business, but also the finances of handling in, especially all the different currencies and everything. And so it's not going to be expensive or more expensive by dealing with for someone like yourself rather than the major banks, because you're going to give them and I know you said this, you look at what the banks don't give and then serve that to your customers. So you are definitely closing the gap. I just got a comment to say thank you for the clarity. Love the idea of getting a human being instead of the artificial intelligence. So thank you very much, Tony. I know you've got a hobby that you do for fun. Please share.
Well, given the name of the business, it'll come as a huge surprise to people.
Yes, that didn't actually click. So sorry, go on, carry on.
My lifelong hobby is cosmology. Again, going back to my childhood days in Southern Africa, because of the tilt of the Earth, the southern hemisphere points towards the middle of the Milky Way. Us in the north here, we point away.
Okay.
So even if you go to a dark sky area in the UK, for every one star we see here, there are hundreds of stars in the southern hemisphere.
Oh, wow.
So I've always, a lot of my childhood holidays were in Kruger National Park on the border between Mozambique and South Africa. And my ever-patient godfather would sit me on top of the bonnet of his car and point out all the constellations and planets and everything else. So I've always had a real passion for all the things up there in space.
Amazing. And I bet you've been getting some really nice clear skies in the UK currently.
Yes, so, it's been really good. It's really, and Cornwall again is another huge advantage in that even though we live in the middle of a city, I can get in the car and 20 minutes later I'm in the dark skies area and just set up and freeze my so-and-sos off watching something for half an hour or an hour.
Oh, excellent. And I know Cornwall's been quite a popular place for the UK residents in terms of holidays and everything. I know most of my neighbours tend to go down to Cornwall, so I'm definitely going to have to make a visit. So excellent. Tony, thank you so much for your time today. And again, please share for the audience there. Thank you for your questions. And I'd love for you to share your biggest takeaway that you learned from Tony. I know for me, Tony, you've made such, an improvement into, given me the flexibility to give my clients a smoother journey. Because I know when I first started to sell in terms of, I just put in a sterling price out there, my first paying client got a bank charge that was double the amount of what she actually paid for my services. And I just felt really bad because it was like, it was outside my control, but also outside her control. And I was like, Tony, help me out, because I don't want my customers paying double, because of bank charges. And so, you definitely make, you make business owners aware of the importance of how, dealing in different currencies can actually impact your client's journey. And then you just make it a lot easier and cost effective. So thank you very much. And I'll see you around. All right. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Nita. Thank you very much for having me on. Thank you.